What's going on, guys? Alumline here with the Speed Duel League, bringing you finally the Win-A-Box #1 finals. 4 weeks of competition leading up to this last match. We've got Art LeQuint at the top from Team Speed Millennium. He's also, I believe, tied for 8th place on the top 10 global leaderboard at the timing of this video, meaning statistically he is the 8th best Speed Duel player in the world. And then down there at the bottom we've got Bylot from Team United We Stand, which I believe is based out of Italy. So let's go ahead and get this match started finally. We're going to start off with the rock, paper, scissors. The most skillful part of the match, I think most people would agree. So let's see what they lead off with here. Both players leading off with paper. Great minds think alike. And then Bylot leads with paper again. Art LeQuint throwing the rock. Bit of a misplay, knowing that Bylot has access to the paper, but that's something for next match. So Bylot's going to take second. Usually you take second with most decks. The skills come down. Both Bakura, so it looks like we've got an Inter-Conflict Warrior mirror match, more than likely. Art LeQuint going to start us off with the first turn. He sets his whole hand. Usually what you want to see whenever you're running a deck that's mostly warrior monsters with a bunch of back row. The ability to open a monster plus 3 back row is really nice. Bylot going to lead off with the Gaia. Set 2 of his own. And then swing, will we see a Command Knight? Yes, we will. They're going to tie. A little interesting that Bylot only saw 2 back row because he saw 5 cards in his opening hand because he went second. So perhaps he's got a Sphere Karibo, or they're both monsters stuck in his hand. So we'll see what Art LeQuint wants to do. If he's able to summon another monster, it'll be bigger than the Gaia because the Command Knight will boost it. Bylot's going to drop Zoma in the end phase. A little interesting because he can't get over the Command Knight currently. So I don't know if that's the correct play, but we'll see what he wants to do here. Possibly he's going to tribute it off. For a Genzo, it would be really, really nice to probably lock up most of those back row. But we'll see what the plan is, because again, he can't get over the Command Knight. So we'll see what he's going for here. He could have a Kunai, which would put him over the Command Knight. He's got his own Command Knight. There we go. Alright, so that's going to boost up the Gaia to 2300. It's basically going to negate Gaia's effect that allowed him to summon it to drop down to 19. Now it is actually a 2300 attack monster with 2100 defense. Swinging in, he's going to activate a Zelma, which will cause a replay, but will not stop the Gaia attack. Bylot's going to chain Twister, pay 500 to get the Zelma off the field. So Bylot was holding onto that Twister. He didn't set it, so he anticipated either a Nightmare Wheel or a Zoma this turn, which is why he didn't set that Twister this turn. He kept it in hand for the battle phase. He's going to continue the attack. He's going to Offerings. A delayed -1. Art LeQuint will not be allowed to draw next turn, but he gets the guy off the field. That's probably the best play. He could have also targeted the Command Knight, which would have meant the Gaia drops to 19 and simply ties with his own Command Knight, but I think that's fine. Art LeQuint not able to draw this turn, so he's just stuck with the 3 cards he had last turn. Or I guess he had more cards than last turn, but he's stuck with 3 cards. Doesn't get to add something to the pool. We'll see if he's got anything. Sets a back row, okay. So Art LeQuint's only seen 1 monster this entire duel, it looks like. A little unlucky. We'll see if Bylot goes aggressive here with like an Inter-Conflict play or something, stealing Art LeQuint's only monster. He's got another Gearfried, so Bylot saw mostly monsters, Art LeQuint saw mostly back row. And we're seeing kind of what that looks like. So Gearfried's got 2400 from the 400 boost from Command Knight. Another Zoma comes down. Will Bylot have a Dust? No, he does not. So this is going to cause another replay. So Gearfried can either choose to continue his attack on Command Knight or attack the Zoma. That's most likely what Bylot's thinking about. We'll see. He has an Offerings. Okay, so he'll take the -1. If it means getting the Zoma off the board. Which, given it's now 1 card versus 4 cards, that's pretty good. We'll see if Art LeQuint can even stop this attack. If he has nothing to even stop these attacks, then the game actually... No, okay. We're good. I was thinking, never mind what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. I'll leave it at that. So, Art LeQuint top decks. I wonder what that back row is. It hasn't been activated all game. So, I'm not sure what he's sitting on that he really doesn't want to activate. It could be an Offerings, and he just can't afford to take the -1. Because if he can't draw, then it's just over. He does take the Inner Conflict. He's going to pay half of his life and most likely take a Gearfried and crash into the Zoma. He can't attack Command Knight. Command Knight's effect prevents it. So they're going to crash. Gearfried drops to 18 in this attack. Because once he's pulled to his opponent's side of the field, Command Knight will only boost your warriors, not your opponent's warriors. So, that's at least something. You know, he did have to pay half his life, which wasn't much at this point. He did lose his skill, but he was able to crash, so... A little bit of a layer Bylot checking the grave. Zoma effect. I think this did come up. I think we saw this message in the Discord, so we'll see. I think they needed a ruling. Currently, right now, the understanding ruling on Zoma is that Zoma will not deal damage if the monster that destroyed Zoma by battle is not on the field when Zoma resolves. There will be no damage dealt. Again, this isn't really known. Zoma is a very, very unique card, and that there's very, very few cards that work like it does. But the current understanding is that no damage will be dealt. If you look at something like Black Whirlwind's rulings came up on this. Black Whirlwind, whenever you summon a black wing from your hand, read its attack value and then add a monster with less attack, a black wing monster with less attack to your hand. If the monster that's normal summoned that triggers Black Whirlwind is destroyed by something like Trap Hole or Bottomless Trap Hole, or you know, it leaves the field, even though it goes to the graveyard, Black Whirlwind cannot check the graveyard to see what the attack value was of the monster and add a card to the hand. And so if Black Whirlwind off trigger can't check graveyard, it's basically inferred that Zoma also shouldn't be able to check the graveyard. It's not possible, it's not a guaranteed ruling, but that's the only close ruling that we've got. So we're probably going to have to skip through this a little bit on a ruling dispute. But Bylot, not in complete control here anymore. As you see, 2 cards to 2 cards. Art LeQuint will draw next turn, so we'll see. But he does have game on board in terms of damage, so we'll see. And then I think you better capitalize my name, Bylot. I guess he doesn't capitalize his name, so it's fine. But are they going to continue here? Rules. Like in all the tournaments on Cursive Channel, this scenario is ruled. I don't believe so. I do know that this was something that was previously not ruled this way. Whenever Zoma first came out, we assumed that the damage would still be dealt, but it's definitely very difficult. There's not any card that I know of that's worded exactly like Zoma, but that's the current understanding. So... And of course, Bylot, is going to want to make sure, because technically, if Zoma did deal damage, this would be game, and Bylot would take game 1. So we will see. Zoma will not be able to use the effect in the scenario of a crash. I wish that I had actually watched this playthrough once before recording this, so that I knew that there was this massive delay here in a ruling. I do think I remember this happening though, and I had to. I don't remember if I answered it or if somebody else did. Looks like there's an issue with Bylot. It's been so long they don't remember what. I don't even remember if he used Doom, but apparently, thank goodness, Art LeQuint knows. But here we go. So he's just going to go straight into battle phase and attack. Interesting that he's hanging on to this card. It most likely means that the card in Bylot's hand is a tribute summonable monster, and he doesn't want to summon it, or it could be something like an Offerings or something weird, so we're playing the guessing game. That's the beauty of speed duels, is there's very few cards that players have control of because they only start with 4 and they usually go down from there because there's not very many cards that plus in speed duels, so you can kind of play the guessing game pretty easily in speed duels. But so here comes the offerings down. Arlequin, no choice. Still very interested in what that middle back row card is because he hasn't played it at all. It could be like a dust. I don't know if he's had anything because, I mean, there was the Zoma. You would think he would dust the Zoma. It could be is his third offerings if he really drew 3 offerings, 2 Zoma, and a Command Knight, but he doesn't get to draw. He's really hoping more than likely that Bylot doesn't see a monster here because this middle back row, we'll see if it's an offerings. It's just game. Okay. Can we see? It was a dust. Okay. So that's interesting that he didn't dust the Zoma and instead chose to crash. I feel like that's a bit of a misplay, but well, I think he should have dusted the Zoma and then stole the Gearfried and crashed the Gearfried into the... I mean, I guess there isn't really a way out of that. Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's not really anything Arlequin could really do there. But interesting. So they're going to side here. And we'll see. I've seen some people swap over to Twisted Personality. I have not actually played a whole lot of Inner Conflict or Twisted Personality Warriors, so I'm not too well versed on this exact mirror match and what you want to look to do. But we'll see. So Arlequin saw mostly back row. I believe he saw 1 monster the entire game. No monster. Neither player tribute summoned. So Arlequin choosing to go second here. Always good to go second because, again, you start the duel essentially with a +1 over your opponent because you're going to be drawing before they do. So you're going to have 5 cards before they have 5 cards. You're going to have 6 cards before they have 6 cards, assuming they don't have anything that pluses or anything or nets card advantage on their first turn. So Bylot sets to no monsters brought down. That's interesting. He could have another spell or trap card that he just doesn't want to set because he doesn't want to clog his back row. But Arlequin, again, filling the board like he did last duel, so definitely a better opening for Arlequin here than Bylot, it seems. Bylot deciding if he wants to stop the attack. We'll see. He's going to summon the Zoma. Now, does Arlequin want to take this? See, I don't mind these plays. I don't mind taking it, you know, and taking the 1800 if it means -1 to my opponent this early on, but maybe they know something I don't. Again, I have not played any games of Inner Conflict Warriors. So Bylot, you see cards here 5/5 now. Summons a Charging Gaia bigger than Gearfried. I wonder if either of these players run attack modifying cards like Prideful Roar, Kunai with Chain. Because I feel like those are cards that give you advantages in these scenarios where if you have them and your opponent doesn't, then technically your monsters are bigger than your opponent's and it can be very awkward for them to deal with that. But Arlequin thinking what back row he has ready for intercepting. Is that a joke? Alright, I'm deck checking you, Arlequin, after this series. Do you actually run RFI? It's good against Paranoid, I will admit it's okay against Paranoid. It's -1 because they put the Paranoid back in the deck after it goes to the graveyard off missing its target off of resolving without effect because it misses its target, but we'll see. And Gaia has 2100 defense, so it's not like you can swing over it anyways. Anyway, he tributes for Jinzo. This is actually a really, really nice play. This is something I think that's really strong with Inner Conflict, is being able to take your opponent's monster, get rid of it. It's this immediate +1. And then dropping something really nice like Jinzo to just turn off the Zoma, potentially turn off the other back row. He's thinking, so he does have something. It could be a Sphere Karibo here. And perhaps that's what Bylot was hanging on to prior. I'm not going to look at their hands. Takes away all the fun. There's the Sphere Karibo. So that might have been what he was holding on to in game 1. He had a card in his hand that I think he had from the beginning of the game. But Sphere Karibo's pretty good against Jinzo. It's one of the only outs that we have in the card pool because it can swap it to defense mode and then hopefully you can swing over it next turn. Art Liquin has 2 back row though and potentially his own Sphere Karibo. So, not looking very good. And Jinzo essentially went +2 by taking out tributing the Gaia, and then making the Zoma essentially worthless and now clogging Bylot's zone for more than likely the rest of the game. So a +2 plus locking up one of the 3 spell and trap card zones. So very, very nice. But here we go. He has his own inner conflict. If he's not tributing here for another monster, that's going to be really awkward. But so he took the Jinzo. So he's going to tribute off the Jinzo. Okay. For his own Jinzo, potentially locking up Art Liquin's back row. So Bylot definitely having the answers here to get out of this slippery situation. Taking out the Gearfried. So now it's 3v4 in terms of card advantage after Art Liquin draws here. Zoma completely worthless at this point. I'm assuming it's going to be worthless for the rest of the game. Bylot hopefully wishing he didn't see a spell or trap card because he wouldn't be able to use it here. But it's going to be very difficult for Art Liquin here. He has access to no traps, he doesn't have access to inner conflict anymore, and he has to deal with a monster with 2400 attack. At this point, Art Liquin needs to see Offerings or Sphere Karibo to kind of get out of this situation, and that's something that makes Jinzo pretty strong, is that meta decks only have a couple outs. Art Liquin already used one of his outs, and so you just see every single turn. Bylot not seeing any monsters, he's probably very frustrated. He doesn't have anything to summon, anything to press the advantage with. And Art Liquin finally doesn't see anything and just scoops it up. We see his own Jinzo, Dust, Zoma, everything turned off. Nothing to use Jinzo stopping it all. Perhaps, you see Bylot with the Twister here. It's a spell card. Not his own trap cards, but there you go. So Bylot, your first Win-A-Box #1 winner. Oof, Bylot had so many outs to the Jinzo. He had another Sphere Karibo, his own Offerings. Art Liquin a little unlucky on the draws, but it happens. I mean, you're in the finals, so more than likely you had your fair share of luck to be this far in. But both players, very, very excellent players. I believe after taking first place, Bylot's going to get a nice chunk of points on the leaderboard for this. So more than likely, Bylot you'll see in the top 10 on the leaderboard as well. So both top 10 players in their own rights. So really well done. Art Liquin, I believe this is his second or third finals appearance. Very good player, and you're seeing Inner Conflict here. So Inner Conflict mirror match here. So Inner Conflict overall did fairly well in the tournament. But we're going to go ahead and segue into the tournament breakdown to show you guys kind of a little bit of an overview of all the decks that participated and how they performed. So stay tuned in just a second for that. Alright guys, here we are with the Win-A-Box #1 deck breakdown. Nothing too fancy here. I know some people love the pie charts and stuff and the horizontal graphs and whatnot. I'm more of a bar chart myself, vertical bar chart here. So we'll go and break it down. If you don't like that, we've got a nice little graph down here. But so we've got most of the decks here that participated. Over here in the legend, you see green represents the decks that participated in Swiss. Blue will represent if they made it into the top cut or not. So we're going to go right to left here. So we have other here. This is just a bunch of one-of decks. We saw Amazonas, I believe Serpent Knight Dragon. We saw Gravekeeper Parasite and a few others. They're just a bunch of one. I think there's a Gearfried deck as well running like Gearfried the Swordsmaster. So just a bunch of one-ofs that I'm not going to bother listing off, or the graph will just be too long. But none of them topped, unfortunately. So nothing spicy coming out of the other category this tournament. We had 3 Relinquished players, none topped. I believe 1 or 2 bubbled, so decent showing from Relinquished. Again, they did get a new skill with the most recent set, the Twisted Nightmares and Match of the Millennium. Started decks that dropped back in May. Relinquished did get a new skill to play with, so they bubbled. That's not too bad. We have Warrior Moth over here, which 3 people played it, 3 tops. So 3 for 3, really good showing from Warrior Moth. Then we come over here to Burn. We've got 3 people played it in the tournament. 1 topped. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if we want Burn to be good, but Burn did get a lot of toys to play with. I'm not sure how I feel about it as a standalone deck. I kind of feel like it's components that you want to put into an actual deck, right? Like people put Zoma and Nightmare Wheel into an actual engine like Paranoid or Warriors, rather than just building it all on its own. Like it doesn't have enough pieces to work all on its own, but I think I like it better as sort of an engine to put into another deck that has a more consistent and solid core. We saw a lot of Spellproof Armor. That is a meta call. I believe Spellproof Armor, again, you have to run all machines, but your machines are immune to spells and their effects. This is mostly just ran to deal with things like Moth decks, Parasite Paranoid decks, and whatnot. And so it's just a meta call. Honestly, I don't like the deck. I feel like even against its best matchup, with it, which is Paranoid, I felt like in my testings, you could still lose to Paranoid. So you run the deck essentially to beat Moth decks, but then you can still lose to Moth decks. I'd say it's like you win like 2 out of every 3 games against them. And in some cases, if you draw bad, it's like 50-50. So you're running it specifically to counter a deck, and you don't even really counter that deck. And then you're also kind of at a disadvantage against other decks like Burn and Stall and Relinquish. And if you run into a Warrior deck that's got an 1800 Gearfried and a 1900 Gaia, they're just bigger than your 1750 guys. It's just, I don't like it, you know. I think a couple bubbled, so it was close. It didn't top, as you can see, but 5 people ran it and it did okay. I believe it did really well in Cursive's turn. I think Cursive is undefeated with it, or was undefeated in it with his tournament, so your mileage may vary. And then I went ahead and combined Inner Conflict and TP Warriors for this event. I may not do that for the next Win-A-Box, but basically a lot of people just switch out the Inner Conflict skill and the Twisted Personality skills in their Warrior decks, so I combined them into just one column for this event. And as you can see, it was 13 total players. I believe there was like 9 Inner Conflict players and 4 Twisted Personality players, and then 4 top, but a lot of the Inner Conflict players had Twisted Personality in their sideboard, so it's kind of like you're playing both. That's why they're combined. But you saw 4 people top out of 13, so about 1 in every 4 players played some form of Inner Conflict or Twisted Personality Warriors, and then 4 made it into the top. So half of the top 8 was Inner Conflict TP Warriors. Almost another half was Warrior Moths. You're seeing the Warrior engine really shine, and that's mostly just based on the fact that they have the strongest level 4 monsters by quite a bit, in my opinion. Gearfried, Gaia, and Command Knight are probably the strongest normal summonable monsters in the game right now, and all 3 are Warriors. And then the reason I went from right to left is because we get to end on probably the most surprising thing of the tournament, is that Dark Moth, coming into this tournament, was considered to be the best deck in the format. I believe there was a tier list discussion going on with Lucas and them over in Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy, over in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy Discord. And Dark Moth was considered to be the tier 1, the only tier 1 deck of the format, and the best deck of the format. You saw 13 players come in with it, none top. There was not a single Dark Moth top in the Win-A-Box number 1, despite over 1 in every 4 players. This is about 26% of the tournament was running Dark Moth, and nobody topped. Better yet, just in case you think, oh, maybe they all bubbled, only 1 person bubbled. So, and that was Emilian over with 5 Dimensions TCG. Also another tournament organizer. Check him out. His Discord is in the Index channels in the Speed Duel League Discord. But he bubbled. He went 4-2. Every other Moth player was a game or more away from bubbling. So they went 3-3 or worse. So, in other words, Dark Moth got destroyed this tournament. You had 1 person bubble, none top, and they made up 1 in every 4 decks in the tournament. So, Dark Moth perhaps exposed. A lot of people might theorycraft as to why this is. It is only 1 tournament, but it is a very large tournament. I saw the deck list. I saw who was running it. They were very good players. There's no excuse. There's no, oh, these were just bad players. Oh, they bubbled, or this was just, some sort of... There's nothing that indicates that this statistic should just be discarded. Like, it was a very large tournament, the largest in quite a while, at almost 50 players. Very large turnout, very large representation, skilled players played the deck, piloted the deck, and none topped. So, I guess throwing a theory out there, I think it's possible that Jinzo being added to Dark Moth knocked it down quite a bit. I know a lot of people thought that Jinzo coming into the meta would actually buff Dark Moth. They thought that, you would just take out your Gap the Divine Soldier or your Dark Ruler Hades for Jinzos instead, and then Moth would just be even stronger. But what I think actually happened is Dark Moth really only has 2 win conditions, despite being a very powerful deck. Only wins in 2 ways. You either make your Moth, sometimes 2 Moths, and you win with your Moth attacks, or you burn your opponent to death with Nightmare Wheel or Zone of the Spirit. Right, so you have your Moth win condition, and you have your Burning Traps win condition. With Jinzo coming into the format, that takes away your Burning Traps, because Jinzo will turn off your traps. And so I think perhaps what a lot of Moth players ran into is you're forced to make your Moth very early, because it's the only meat of your deck, is you have to make Moth. You cannot win a game by just setting the Koichis and Nudorias. That doesn't progress your game state to a win condition. So you have to make your Moth, and then your opponent simply responds by activating Inner Conflict, taking your Moth, tripping off for Jinzo, and now you don't have your Moth play anymore, and your traps don't work, so your odds of winning plummet. That's just a theory, though. I don't actually know specifically what went so wrong for Dark Moth this tournament, or if it's just a fact that Dark Moth probably won't be Tier 1 anymore with Jinzo in the meta. So, but that's the tournament breakdown. Currently, if you'd like to participate in these kind of tournaments, we have Win-A-Box number 2 taking place at the recording of this video. I believe there is just over 40 hours to sign up for Win-A-Box number 2. It's going to take place at 12 p.m. CST, Central Standard Time, on Thursday, September 3rd. So if you'd like to participate in these tournaments, go ahead and sign up for that. You can join the Speed Duel League Discord. The link will be in the description. Click the green check mark if you're joining the Discord for the first time, and then scroll down to the Win-A-Box channel section, and in the sign up channel, simply comment that you would like to sign up, and then send me a deck list when you can. You have 40 hours roughly from the time I'm recording this video. So good luck to all those that have already signed up and are participating, and I hope to see a lot of you there. That'll be Win-A-Box number 2. This was Win-A-Box number 1. Again, congratulations, Bylot, for taking it. I've already sent him his prize, actually, because this video is going up a little bit later than when the finals actually occurred. And then congratulations to Art LeQuent. 2 finals in a row. I know that I believe he just made another finals as well in Cursive's tournament, I think. So congratulations to Art LeQuent as well. 2 very, very good players. And I will see you guys in the next video.